Uh, Recently, you wrote a little bit about the Louisiana Economic Outlook estimates, and well, let's start macro, i.e., the whole state. Because of the coronavirus, can you throw some numbers at us? How are we looking? What kind of havoc did it wreak on our economy?
Well, it was it was bad. It was bad here. It was bad every place. That's the unique thing about this hit. In April, the worst month that we had, the first month of complete shutdown, the state shed almost 272,000 jobs. So it was a serious blow, as it turns out. Now, the good news is that since then, as we've gone into these different phases and reopened, we've gotten back about 49% of those jobs. So we're recovering. We still have a ways to go. There are certain sectors that are doing a lot worse, and certain sectors that are doing better. Certain areas of the state doing worse. Certain areas doing better. But it was a very serious blow to us. We think that on the average for this year, that we'll be down about 5.3%, or about a little over 105,000 jobs.
How did our
That,
area
by the
do,
way,
Doc? How did Northwest Louisiana do? How many jobs did we lose?
Well, you folks did about the same as the state in terms of percentage decline, as it turns out. The state in April lost 14% of this job. Y'all lost 13%. Which in a way was kind of surprising. I thought it would be much worse for you, honestly. And the primary couple of reasons for that is, number one, you have the second largest casino market in the state, or including the racino that you have there. It's about 4,800 jobs. And, you know, those units were closed completely from March through mid-June. And then you had three real significant hits. You had the closure of Libby Glass. You had the closure of the Domite mine and power plant up there in Mansell area. Mm-hmm. And then you lost the casino. You lost Diamond Jacks.
Right.
It is not going to reopen.
Of the jobs that
So
we
anyway,
lost,
you came out pretty well. And in terms of the comeback, by the way, you're about the same, too. You've also recovered about 49% of your jobs.
I was looking at your report, and it says we've lost about 10,000 jobs, and we might not get many of those back. Of the 10,000 that we've now still have lost and haven't gotten back yet. What's the reason for that? Is it gambling, or are there other factors like you mentioned?
Well, it's first of all, you've got to those three permanent closures that I mentioned to you add up to add up to more than 1,000 jobs. So you've got to overcome the loss of those permanent job losses. So that's going to be a tricky thing for you. Your casino market was already in decline and will probably continue to decline because of problems associated with the competition with any casinos. It's basically what we see is your recovery being a Nike swoosh instead of a V. You understand? You got the visual there on that?
Yeah.
Now, having said that, there are a couple of things that could totally change this around. Greg Spahn out at the National Cyber Research Park is working very hard to get a very big firm coming in associated with the Air Force. And then down at the port, Eric England and his group also have another fish on the hook they hope to land. If either one of those two hit, then I think that'll make your outcome much more optimistic as we look at 2022.
Doc, when you look at the total of numbers, when you look at the numbers of jobs that have come back, the rehirings, etc., are you surprised that the number is, given the shutdown, given the mandates, not only the mandates that were in place, but the mandates that are you surprised? Do you see that 49% of jobs as a positive or a negative number?
Oh, I think it's a positive. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you that if you look at the national forecast for what they thought the third quarter was going to be like, that would be the July, August, and September quarter, which is our beginning recovery quarter. The data that are coming in at the national level support what we just talked about. It has been a surprisingly strong, much better than we thought. For example, One group I saw was forecasting originally that real gross domestic product recover about 18%, grow at about an 18% rate. They have now revised that upward to 25. That's a pretty significant recovery. So the retail trade sector is coming back a lot faster than people thought. The services sector, your barbershops, your casinos. The weird thing about the casinos is the casinos are operating at 50% capacity, but their revenues are back by 79%. This report. People are still going to gamble apparently, no matter what.
I was going to ask you that about the sectors that are showing growth and they're actually going to add jobs. Retail, you're saying, casinos. Any other areas that we should watch out for where we could see some growth?
Yeah. Well, I think it's almost easier to talk about the ones where you probably won't, and that is this is a weird recession in that it was led by the service sector. Usually, the service sector is the anchor that keeps the recession from getting so bad. This one was led by this. So the hardest hit sector has been the leisure and hospitality area, where your hotels, your cinemas, your restaurants, your casinos, and things like that. The casinos are the weird one. They came back, but the other ones are going to struggle, I think, until people are comfortable about being in crowds again. So having a vaccine is really critical to the rate at which we recover. And there's a part of the Louisiana Economic Outlook that talks about that. I think there's a reasonably good chance now that we'll have a vaccine by the end of this year or by the first quarter of next year. And that is remarkably fast. The previous record for getting a vaccine to the market for a COVID-type disease was the mumps, and that took 4 stinking years.
Okay,
to get that one.
One more thing, before our last minute or so here. What's your projection for the holidays in terms of jobs and recovery? Are we going to go spend money?
Well, to some extent, yes. We are basing our forecast on the premise that we'll get back a total of 72% of our jobs by Christmas time. Now, that means that it will not be as good a Christmas season as before. Now, we'll tell you that partly this depends upon another round of stimulus that comes out of Congress. If Congress says we're gonna add to the unemployment insurance benefits an extra bonus, like you remember the $600 bonus, if they do that, that might that's going to change the nature of the Christmas season. It'll be better because some of the people who are unemployed, if the unemployment insurance plus $600 a week, that is significantly more than they make working. So a lot depends upon what kind of stimulus package comes out of Congress.
Gotcha.